Will an explosion in Louisiana leave Nitro racers running too lean? What pro stock driver began winning in the nick of time? Who is the Colorado racer on the brink of success? And what brought a group of racers together in Wisconsin? From Lenco Transmissions in San Diego, California, the answers to these questions and much more on this edition of NHRA Today. Since its inception, pro stock has been a battleground for the best Detroit has to offer. Legendary battles between manufacturers have been fought out on the drag strips of America for 2 decades, and the 500 cubic inch hot rods from Detroit consistently fill the grandstands with the faithful. Product identity is part of the reason that Ford has its fanatics, Mopar its maniacs, Chevy its cheerleaders, and Oldsmobile gets its ovations. But there is one vital element that every pro stock race car has in common: the sturdy workhorse, a Lenco transmission. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Evans, and welcome to this edition of NHRA Today. You know, just as Kleenex is facial tissue and Xerox is copiers, the name Lenco has become synonymous with transmissions in the drag racing dictionary. In the next half hour, we'll find out more about these units that can handle thousands of horsepower. But first, let's shift gears and find out what's hot. Last weekend, at a best-of-3 match race against Gary Ormsby in Topeka, Lori Johns experienced her first trips down the quarter mile under the guidance of newly hired crew chief Ronnie Swearingen.
It's probably going better than I ever could have imagined. I didn't ever expect to come with Ronnie Swearingen as our brand new crew chief with really not even our full crew here yet. We're really short-handed, and we've only made 2 full passes down the track, and one of them was a 5:01 and one of them is a 4:99, and he's certainly a talented man.
Ormsby came out on top in each of the 3 races, winning twice by a hole shot. In fact, getting the Jolly Rancher car to launch seemed to be the major adjustment for Swearingen in adapting to top fuel from funny cars.
Well, right now is a hard time to ask me what's difficult because we haven't run into any roadblocks yet. I guess I've had trouble sticking it on the starting line, but other than that, it runs pretty good. We got to get some speed out of it today.
In another top fuel story, Nitro rookie Corey McClanathan, who impressed with a Final 4 performance earlier this year in Atlanta, may be sidelined for the next several races. During qualifying earlier this month in Memphis, the Mack Attack dragster suffered severe damage when a tire was punctured.
It hit the wing, and where the wing connects to the main frame rail, it broke the main frame rail in 2 pieces.
The damage from the accident was so severe that the car has been retired from competition. The team has a new car on order, which they hope to debut at the Mile High Nationals. And until then, Corey is considering renting a ride with another team. And that's what's hot. The names Lori and Corey are ones we'll be hearing a lot of in the coming years, but in the past few weeks, the name Angus has been on the lips of most Nitro racers. On May 1st, the Angus Chemical Company's nitro paraffin production facility in Sterlington, Louisiana, sustained substantial damage from a fire and explosion. As a result of this incident, Angus, the largest supplier of nitromethane used in drag racing, has instituted allocation programs for a majority of its product line.
Angus is already making plans to get rebuilt, reconstructed back whenever this happens, which we hope it'll be a short-term deal. Everything will go back to normal again.
Other nitromethane distributors are aware of the situation and are making attempts to help alleviate the problem.
Everything we have are planning on getting will go to NHRA.
We have available nitro for probably about 6 national events. They actually brought the whole plant back in from vacation to try to step up the production to try to get product to us as quickly as possible.
We'll sell everything that we have, which would be about 20 drums an event, into the racing. If they're able to step up production in Houston, I'm sure that we'll be able to get more fuel.
So far, NHRA has not become formally involved, but they are monitoring the situation to guarantee fair competition during the remainder of the 1991 season.
Short term, it appears that everything is pretty well under control, and it depends on the racers themselves as to the number of runs they choose to make and how they ration out their product that they have available to each individual team.
The concern over the availability of nitromethane comes down to the fact that every time a dragster or funny car makes a run, it consumes 12 to 15 gallons of fuel. In fact, the reason that modern-day nitro engines create so much power is the volume of fuel that is pumped through them. Now, how some teams get that amount of fuel from the tank to the injectors is the subject of this week's Tech Check with Don Garlitz.
In 1957, when I was racing Swamp Rat 1, the experts felt that 170 would never be achieved in the quarter mile. I increased the fuel line on my car from a ½ an inch to a 1 inch. Everybody had a big laugh, but the car went 176 miles an hour in the quarter. Today, Jack Ostrander has installed a 2-inch main fuel delivery line on his top fuel dragster. Jack feels that the smaller lines that have been on these cars are causing a fuel starvation. There's 2 massive pumps feeding out of this line, so he feels that it's got to be big. And here you can see the nice T coming in, 2 1/4 lines. No restriction there, running up to the 2 pumps. I don't think that Jack Ostrander is going to suffer fuel starvation on this car.
Stay with us. When we come back, you'll find out just how a Lenco transmission works, and you'll meet a man who is a master at pulling those levers.
NHRA Today is being brought to you by Castrol GTX, the motor oil that provides maximum protection against viscosity and thermal breakdown.
Welcome back to NHRA Today in San Diego, California. And joining us is Gary Summick, the president of Lenco. And Gary, how does one of your 2 speeds work?
Well, Steve, it's a planetary transmission. It's very similar to the solar system. It has a sun gear and planet gears, which revolve around it. It has a ring gear, which is turned by the input shaft.
Right.
The input shaft transmits the power to the ring gear, which transmits it to the planet gears. The sun gear is being held stationary by a sprag assembly, which is a one-directional clutch. When the unit is shifted into high gear, it then turns 1 to 1.
Everything's locked up.
Everything's locked up.
Now, this is a 2-speed. If you want a 3-speed, you just bolt another unit on. If you want a 4-speed, you use 3 of them. Bob Glidden's got 4 of them put together now for a 5-speed.
That's correct.
Thanks for having us today.
You're welcome, Steve.
And now let's meet a man who last season pulled those Lenco levers to 4 Pro Stock National Event victories, Larry Morgan.
When I was a kid, that's really all I was interested in doing, was fooling around with cars.
Larry Morgan didn't become one of drag racing's more successful Pro Stock drivers overnight. Long hours and hard work are a part of any successful racing operation. But Larry remembers fondly the year he joined Team Castrol as a charter member, racing Super Stock.
I started with that Trans Am. That was probably the most memorable car I've ever had as far as working day and night. And I mean, I'm talking 20-hour days for 3 or 4 of us. That was probably my most memorable year, was 1984 when I first started. At the end of my 84 year, I'd won 3 national events. I had a killer year.
Larry moved to Comp, winning 4 national events, and since 1987, he's been racing Pro Stock, finishing the last 2 years in the top 10 and winning 4 national events in 1990.
We've worked real hard to get in the position we're in right now, I can tell you that. We spend a lot of hours doing this. I mean, I'm talking 18-hour days and 7 days a week. And the guys that don't work like that, they're the guys that are behind.
But while the 1991 season has yet to see him pass the 2nd round, Larry and crew are determined and confident.
We've been successful, and I know that we will be successful again. Well, you know, I've been a pretty big boy all my life, so I thought, well, I'm just going to go on a diet. So I went on this diet, and I've lost 40 pounds, and I haven't won a round hardly. So I'm not so sure that I may not start eating again.
Home cooking is close enough. Larry's house is only a few hundred feet from his shop.
I've got the ultimate. My family is here, and my shop is right next door to my house. I have probably the perfect marriage because My wife is involved in what I do.
Diane, Larry's wife of 12 years, has her own role on the Bob Bonella racing crew.
Diane she does all the paperwork. She takes care of all the book work and tries to keep us straightened out, which is a full-time job.
Both Diane and Larry are Newark, Ohio area natives and were introduced by Diane's older sister. While having the shop right next door to the house is convenient, it also has a downside.
Sometimes I think with it being so close, though, it's easy for Larry to want to be there all the time.
The hours it takes to do this, you can't do it in 8 hours a day. It's one of those jobs where you spend as much time as you possibly can.
I think even though he may be physically here at home, his mind's still at the shop. And if you'd ask him what he does relax, I don't know that he'd be able to tell you. I think probably Nick is his best escape from work.
The Morgan son, Nick, who will be 2 in August, is no stranger to drag strips. In fact, Larry considers him good luck because shortly after Nick was born, Larry won his first Pro Stock national event. The Morgans are expecting their second child in January, but Larry's focus is his racing.
I have to know what's going on. There's a lot of drivers that just come into the races and drive the car. Well, I'm not one of those guys. I wouldn't want to do it that way. I want to be involved with what's happening and make decisions. This is my life right here. I mean, I can't say that I have anything that I do other than this. This is what I chose to do, and I guess I like it or I wouldn't be doing it.
Castrol presents the GTX Pipeline, the latest news from the world of drag racing.
2 of drag racing's most prominent names, Kenny Bernstein and Don Prudhomme, will be taking part in next month's induction ceremonies for the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. Bernstein will be the chairman for the festivities, while Prudhomme, who is celebrating his silver anniversary of NHRA national competition, will be one of 10 racing greats honored in Detroit on June 12. The Snake joins previous drag racing inductees, Don Garlitz and Shirley Muldowney. Drag racing related incident. 2 members of Daryl Gwynn's crew, Gary Clark and Nick Flock, were killed last week in a boating accident in Florida. They were fine gentlemen who will be missed by all, and we offer our condolences to their families and friends. Welcome back to the facility in Southern California where Lenco transmissions are manufactured. We've moved to another area of the shop, the Research and Development Department. A little different than most, it's got 4 wheels. Meet one of the top machinists here and test pilot, Tom Pissinger. Tom, when you go to the track, you want to win, but you're there for another reason as well.
That's right, Steve. We need to test some of our new design changes, innovative changes to try and make the transmission a little bit lighter, a little bit less rotating weight, a little less drag. Try different types of materials to see which is strong enough to hold up, and we make plenty of power with this car, so it works out to be a good test bed for us.
And it means that the customer knows that he's not testing new products. You're doing that for him.
No. We try to take care of that all ourselves in case anything happens.
And the speeds you've been running lately, 228, that's a real test. Great job.
Right. That's plenty of horsepower for anything there.
Keep it up.
Thank you.
You know, last weekend in Topeka, Kansas, a lot of these Lenco transmissions were in action in the Sportsman classes. Here's Bob Fry with his report.
A Heartland Park crowd estimated at 13,000 braved a chilly breeze and overcast skies for the inaugural event for Division 5 in the Winston Drag Racing Series. Now, one of the sportsmen competing was Lawrence Brink, a 20-year-plus veteran of Division 5 racing. Brink won the Division 5 Super Comp Championship in 1984 and was runner-up in 85 and 86. He was also a TRW All-Star in those same years. Last year, Brink wasn't expected to be in Columbus for the TRWs, but fate put him there.
I went in as an alternate because Eric Nelson, he couldn't go, and I was second in points, so I was fortunate enough to be able to go, and I guess lucky enough to win. First round, I had to run Kirk Dameron, and he's about as tough as they get, and I was fortunate enough to have a little better light than Kirk, and we was running down the end, and I was sizing him up, and I thought maybe I'd let him go by me. And I think I won that race by 1/1000th of a second.
Now, it was Lawrence's influence that got 1989 Division 5 Super Comp and Super Pro champion Eric Nelson and his brother Lars, the Division 5 1990 Super Pro champ, first involved in racing. And now they all travel and race together.
We were little kids. We used to just hang out with him, and then I started racing a parts truck for him, and started just working my way on up. Bought one of his old cars, and I started out racing with him. Next thing I know, I'm racing against him.
Got me right up to Super Comp with him, and Lars is in the same class. We're all running Super Comp now. We're waiting for him to show us what class is next. We're just following him.
At Topeka, Lawrence was the only one of the group to survive to round 4 when he was taken out by Pat Mayer. Darrell Goza eventually went on to win the Super Comp title. The Top Alcohol Dragster final featured local driver Tim Baxter and Oklahoma's red-hot Tom Conway. Conway in the near lane captured his 3rd divisional race of the season and his 4th straight at Heartland.
We were really concerned about our car more than his because this is only the 2nd weekend we run that car, and the motor's further back and it loads the tires different, and we're having a little trouble getting a handle on that. So every run we're changing a little bit and hope we're gaining on it.
The Top Alcohol Funny Car final, Pat Austin continued his blitz on the class. This time, Al DiPozo in the near lane was the victim.
There ain't no room for error, and if you make a little error, you're going to get beat. And that happened to us 2 weeks ago, and I didn't want it to happen again, so we were on our toes, and we made the car run as good as what we thought we needed to run to win the race.
Here are other winners from Division 5. For NHRA Today, I'm Bob Fry.
For the 14 months we have been doing NHRA Today, one thing has remained a constant. At every location we find laying around a copy of National Dragster, because you just can't enjoy this sport to the fullest without Dragster, and the only way you get it is to join NHRA. For just $45 a year, you receive Dragster and all the other benefits, so call right now. And if you do call the number on your screen, they'll throw in a copy of Drag Racing 1990, the Diamond P video. And remember, next weekend is a very busy one. Check out the action closest to you. Welcome back to sunny Southern California. A Lenco transmission works on the principle of underdrive. But recently in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a bunch of drag racers got together and put their efforts into overdrive for a worthy cause very close to their hearts.
The reason we're holding this event here today at BT Edder's Pub is to raise money for an 8-year-old young man, Sean Eddy, who's going into surgery Tuesday for a brain tumor. It's not a cancerous tumor, but it's growing at such a rate where it's causing pressure in the young man's brain, and they have to remove it as soon as possible. So we decided to bring in some of the local race car enthusiasts, mud trucks, and NHRA drag racing friends of ours, and they all graciously donated their time to come in and bring their rigs in and raise money for the young man today.
Sean's mother was a former sponsor of the Budweiser Barracuda, and when the racers discovered the boy's plight, they went into action. The day's festivities included everything from a photo opportunity with models to a raffle to an auction of items donated by speed shops and manufacturers. But despite the hardware up for bid and on display in the parking lot, it was a day focused on community instead of competition.
I think what's special about this gathering is the fact that it's not only that the racers care about their machines and making them go faster, but it's that they care about the children.
I would rather be here than anywhere else today for that reason, you know, to help raise money to take care of the little guy.
I'm happy that everybody cares about me. It's nice of them, and I'm happy that they're doing this for us.
The effort benefited from beautiful weather and strong support within the racing world. Advanced ticket sales exceeded expectations, and the turnout was remarkable. But raising spirits was as vital as raising funds.
I can't believe the participation with everybody. It's a lot of these people I don't even know, and they're just come together and to help us, and it's a fantastic feeling. We just hope for the best, and hope Sean comes out of his surgery okay. And he's going to be basically a stroke victim for a while. And it's going to take a lot of physical therapy for him to come back around to where he can run and play and speak and all that other stuff.
The depth of caring and emotion shown to Sean and his family serves to renew our faith in humanity. But that outpouring pales in comparison to the strength of a little boy who loves race cars. A child who possesses raw, innocent courage in the face of an uncertain future.
The future is like later on, right? Like after the questions, I'm gonna go right on that thing again. That's what I'm gonna do in the future.
We're happy to report that Sean's 8-hour operation was a success, but as his father mentioned, he faces a long recovery period. Over $4,000 was raised to benefit the Eddies. A tip of our hat to everyone involved. You're good people. If you would like to assist the Sean Eddy Fund, here's the address and phone number of the benefit organizers. For Bob Fry, Don Garlitz, and Dave McClellan, I'm Steve Evans. Thanks for joining us.
NHRA Today has been brought to you by Castrol GTX, engineered for today's smaller cars. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the special offer from NHRA Today is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.